Across the globe tonight, historic flooding in Europe is turning a small German river into what some are describing as a monster. And the monsoon rains are sending cars down rivers in Arizona tonight as the bone-dry land creates debris flow conditions. Tonight, nearly 70 wildfires are also burning in the west from Alaska to Wyoming. Record heat and that drought emergency fueling the flames. Kana Whitworth and Rob Marciano are standing by. The U.S. Surgeon General is warning about the urgent threat of misinformation about COVID vaccines. In his first advisory, the Surgeon General says false information about vaccines has put American lives at risk. Shocking comments from America's top general. The new book claiming the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, was concerned former President Trump would stage a coup after losing the election, linking Trump's actions to the rise of Nazi power in Germany. Tonight, former President Trump's response. Grocery stores ransacked, businesses shut down, buildings set on fire. It's the worst unrest to hit South Africa since apartheid. What fanned the flame that now has regular citizens taking to the streets saying enough? For what comes next, our Ian Pannell reports. Love behind bars? The people who found love in America's prison system and the lengths some people go to find the one. Brain chips. Sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but tonight this real-life technology could change nearly every aspect of our lives.
Is this science fiction or is this reality?
It is absolutely science fiction that has turned into real science.
Our in-depth report on the promise and the perils of a future where our minds merge with machines. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Health misinformation has cost us lives. Those were the words of the U.S. Surgeon General in his first health advisory under the Biden administration. A warning about misinformation surrounding the COVID-19 vaccine and Americans refusing to take it based on what he called easily debunked myths. The Surgeon General took to the podium at the White House today, pleading with social media companies and politicians to take responsibility. This comes at a time that the pandemic in America is increasingly becoming what Governor Newsom described to us earlier this week as a crisis of the unvaccinated. In Los Angeles County this week, officials there announced that every single COVID patient currently hospitalized in hospitals run by the county has not been vaccinated. The divide is also growing between Democrats and Republicans. A recent survey found nearly 47% of residents in counties that Biden won were fully vaccinated, compared to 35% of residents in Trump counties. The head of the National Institutes of Health saying the government can't shrug off vaccine hesitancy, warning people are dying. Whit Johnson leads us off tonight.
Tonight, the spike in new coronavirus cases across much of this country, fueled by the Delta variant. The CDC says cases are on the rise in at least 45 states. The U.S. back to an average of 1,000 new cases reported every hour. Late today, the mask mandate returning for Los Angeles. And all of this comes as the new Surgeon General issues his first official advisory, calling misinformation surrounding the pandemic and vaccines an urgent threat in the fight against COVID.
Today, we live in a world where misinformation poses an imminent and insidious threat to our nation's health.
The nation's Dr. Vivek Murthy saying 2/3 of people who are not vaccinated believe common myths about vaccines. He's now calling on social media companies and politicians to take more responsibility.
Every one of us has the power and the responsibility to make a difference in this fight. Lives are depending on it.
This as the nation grapples with the surging Delta variant, now considered more contagious than the previous known variants. Overnight, encouraging news on the one-shot Johnson & Johnson vaccine. New peer-reviewed data shows the J&J shot may provide a strong immune response at least 8 months after immunization, and may also offer good protection against the Delta variant. It's already believed 2 shots of the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines are also effective against the variant. But tonight, with the pace of new vaccinations now at a crawl, COVID cases in the U.S. doubling in just 3 weeks. In Tennessee, only 38% of residents are fully vaccinated.
It's sadness, it's frustration, it's fear.
The state's now former vaccine chief, Dr. Michelle Fiskus, claimed she was fired after trying to get the word out about teens and vaccines, saying she sent out a memo alerting vaccine providers about a law that allows some teens to get the COVID shot without their parents' permission. Fiskus says state officials then halted outreach on all childhood vaccines, not just the coronavirus.
They are listening to the the whispers and the disinformation from the anti-vaccine contingent and repeating Facebook memes.
Tonight, in a statement, the Tennessee Health Department saying while it had not stopped childhood immunizations, it was mindful of hesitancy and the intense national conversation around vaccines. And underscoring the risk facing young people who are unvaccinated, tonight in Utah, health officials are investigating cases linked to 10 different summer camps in just 1 week. How worried are you about the start of the school year just weeks away?
With the Delta variant coming on, there is some worry about when school starts and how this will shape up.
And tonight, the NFL Network's Rich Eisen trying to get the word out to get your vaccine. Sharing on Instagram he has tested positive despite being fully vaccinated, saying doctors have told him it could have been much worse without the vaccines. Adding, every healthcare professional I've come across in the last few days tell me the 2 shots of Pfizer I got in February are what's keeping a 52-year-old like me from a far worse experience than the awful one I'm having. So be careful if you're vaccinated, and if you're not vaccinated, don't wait another second.
So many trying to get that message out. Whit Johnson joins us now. Whit, word late today about the impact of COVID on the sports world, this time a cancellation in Major League Baseball. Tell us about that.
Lindsay, that's right. A number of trends moving in the wrong direction. And late today, Major League Baseball announced that tonight's game between the Boston Red Sox and New York Yankees will be postponed after 3 pitchers tested positive. This is just the 8th game so far this year to be postponed due to COVID, and the first since mid-April. Lindsay?
Whit Johnson, our thanks to you. Now to the growing extreme conditions in the West tonight. The worsening drought as yet another heat wave is on the way. Nearly 2/3 of the West is in extreme or exceptional drought. That's the highest number in government record since 1999. The heat and smoke from wildfires ramping up the problem. And lakes and rivers are literally running dry tonight and threatening the water supply for millions. Kana Whitworth is in Utah for us tonight.
Tonight, the National Weather Service is warning that the coming heat wave could break more records and fuel more fires, and will definitely bring more triple-digit temperatures. Nearly 2/3 of the West is in exceptional or extreme drought, the highest number since the government started keeping track in 1999. Overnight, those much-needed monsoon rains moving into the southwest seem to do more harm than good. Oh my God! Washing away cars and stranding this family on top of their SUV in Arizona. And we've seen the images, bone-dry lakes that millions need for drinking water, but it's also having a profound effect on agriculture. Montana ranchers Mike and Nancy Ero are worried.
Someday I might wake up and find out I don't have any water for my cows. Maybe they'll dry up.
Food for the cows also scarce, as the hot, dry conditions are optimal for a catastrophic infestation of grasshoppers, taking over their fields, eating 6 times their body weight daily.
They ate 100% of everything.
The USDA predicts this year grasshoppers could devour nearly 35 million acres across the West. And it's possible the worst is yet to come.
So if there's another mild winter in store, what does that mean?
Our cattle won't be here.
And the concern of many that the worst is, in fact, yet to come. Kana Whitworth joins us now from Great Salt Lake State Park in Utah. Kana, water levels so low there, officials have had to take some drastic action. What are they doing?
Yeah, so Lindsay, you can see it right here behind me. They've had to pull all of the boats out of the water. They say that in the coming weeks, they expect the water levels to be at historic lows. So there's still a few remaining boats out there. They will be gone in the next couple of weeks. And what's really scary, Lindsay, is they say it could be 2 years before they get to go back in the water.
Oh, wow. And also, Kana, this drought is pervasive at the moment and impacting so many different aspects of daily life. You're just back from Montana. What was the reality like on the ground there?
You know, Lindsay, we saw a lot of emotion from lifelong ranchers. Some of them are 3rd generation, and farmers, as they call them, growers in the area. They provide our country's food supply, and they are at a loss. They don't know what to do, and they're fearful of their future. And Lindsay, what they really wanted me to pass along was that at this point, it is not about the dollar anymore. It is about their lives.
Kana Whitworth, our thanks to you. And for more on that, let's bring in our Rob Marciano. Rob is tracking those fires, the heat, monsoon rains, and the drought. Lots to keep an eye on. Hey, Rob.
All the actions in the west, Lindsay. Good evening to you. We have more dangerous fire weather conditions, more so across the northwest where red flag warnings are posted. Take a look east of the Cascade Crest and through central Oregon and Washington. Gusty winds, low levels of humidity, and maybe some thunderstorms that don't produce much rain but produce lightning. So that's always dangerous, especially over there in Idaho and parts of Montana. You see the monsoon flow bringing in moisture to the Four Corner states where flash flood watches remain up. And anything that's downwind of the fires that are burning in Northern California, air quality is poor. You see that excessive heat watch across western Montana? That's the beginning of our next heat wave. In Billings, it'll get to 102, 104 degrees on Monday. This is in the northern Rockies. Can you believe it? Salt Lake City does not cool off. I'm not sure we'll hit records there, but yet more days that are up and over 100 degrees in that city. And the 6 to 10 day outlook doesn't bode well for the areas that are entering this heat wave. Likely to be above average temperatures in the northern Rockies again, and precip is going to be low, especially in some of the fire areas there in California. So the drought will only be getting worse, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Lindsay?
Lots of triple-digit temperatures, especially in the northern Rockies, as shed there. Rob Marciano, our thanks to you as always.
You bet.
Now to a new book reporting the alarming words from the nation's top military official who feared that former President Trump may attempt a coup to stay in power after the 2020 election. Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark Milley reportedly comparing Trump's rhetoric on January 6th to Hitler. So how is Trump responding? Here's our Chief Washington correspondent, Jonathan Karl.
In the days after the November election, the nation's top military officer feared Donald Trump would try to stage a coup to stay in power. In their new book, I Alone Can Fix It, Washington Post reporters Phil Rucker and Carol Leonnig write that Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark Milley was so concerned he called Trump's former national security advisor, H.R. McMaster, and asked, "What the F am I dealing with?" According to the book, as Milley watched Donald Trump speak on January 6th, he saw echoes of Adolf Hitler.
We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Milley, the author's right, told aides, "This is a Reichstag moment, the gospel of the Fuhrer." That was a reference to the burning down of the German parliament building in 1933 that helped Hitler and the Nazis seize power. General Milley also saw parallels between the Nazis and Trump and his supporters in the immediate aftermath of the election, when Trump refused to acknowledge he lost.
Frankly, we did win this election.
After a November 10th briefing on a planned pro-Trump protest in Washington, the author's right, Milley said he feared an equivalent of brown shirts in the streets. And after the Capitol riot, he vowed to protect Joe Biden's inauguration, saying, quote, "We're going to put a ring of steel around this city, and the Nazis aren't getting in."
Jonathan Karl joins us now. John, the former president, put out a lengthy statement today responding to Milley's words. What did he have to say?
Well, no comment in this statement about the Nazi comparisons, but he did address the allegations about a coup. The former president writing in this statement, "I never threatened or spoke to anyone about a coup of our government. So ridiculous. Sorry to inform you, but an election is my form of coup." But Lindsay, the very next sentence in this statement reads, "If I was going to do a coup, one of the last people that I would do it with is General Mark Milley." So rather extraordinary to hear the former president entertain the idea that if he were to do a coup, he wouldn't do it with Mark Milley.
Right. If I were going to do it, this is how I would have done it, or this is not how I would have done it. And meanwhile, the former president still holding a lot of sway over the Republican Party, meeting with House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy today on his golf course in Jersey.
Yes, and making sure that he let everybody know about that. He put out a statement. The statement came from Donald Trump. It didn't come from Kevin McCarthy. But the two of them did have lunch together at his golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey. What we are told from Kevin McCarthy's office is that the subject of this committee that will be investigating January 6th did not come up. This is a very critical point, Lindsay, because McCarthy is right now weighing what Republicans to appoint to that committee, and some were, of course, speculating, is Donald Trump going to tell him or urge him to appoint certain Republicans? But what we are told from Kevin McCarthy's staff is that subject did not come up.
But former president still potentially able to put his finger and tip the scale a bit either way. All right, Jonathan Karl, our thanks to you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
And at the White House today, President Biden hosted German Chancellor Angela Merkel, the two highlighting their long-standing relationship with Merkel in her final year in office. And tonight, a VIP dinner for Merkel with several former secretaries of state, including Hillary Clinton, expected to attend. ABC's Rachel Scott has the very latest from the White House.
Tonight, German Chancellor Angela Merkel becoming the first European leader to visit the Biden White House.
Today, it's been my great honor, and I mean that, to welcome a dear friend back to the White House.
This is Merkel's final year as chancellor. She has met with 4 American presidents.
Matter of fact, she knows the Oval Office as well as I do.
But there were flashpoints. Biden is opposed to Germany's deal with Russia to build a massive gas pipeline connecting the two countries. The concern, it would embolden Russian President Vladimir Putin.
My view on Nord Stream 2 has been known for some time. Good friends can disagree.
Merkel was diplomatic when asked how Biden compares to Donald Trump, saying Germany always has a vested interest in talking with American presidents, adding today was a very friendly exchange.
That allyship continues. Rachel Scott joins us now. Rachel, a VIP dinner tonight at the White House with President Biden and Chancellor Merkel. Who will we see there tonight?
Well, of course, Chancellor Merkel has a long history of leaders on both sides of the aisle. So tonight, former Republican Secretary of State Colin Powell will be in attendance, as well as Hillary Clinton. And President Biden also making a point to invite the top Republican leaders in Congress. Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy are expected to attend as well, Lindsay.
Trying to work across the aisle, even over the dinner table. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is moving toward a vote on that bipartisan infrastructure bill. What's the plan, and how are Republicans responding?
Yeah, this is going to be a key test vote. It's set up for Wednesday now, and they will need 60 senators to get on board in order to move forward with this. But you have Republicans tonight, like Senator Lisa Murkowski. They are calling this a very aggressive timeline. And the reason why is because so many of the details are still being hashed out. They met behind closed doors for about 4 hours today, trying to work through how to pay for this $1.2 trillion plan. The bottom line is that they're not there yet as of right now, but they are getting close, Lindsay.
And as they say, the devil is in the details. Rachel Scott reporting in from the White House for us. Thanks, Rachel.
Thanks.
Now to the arrest of NFL star Richard Sherman near Seattle. His wife heard on newly released 911 calls saying that he was intoxicated and threatened to kill himself during a confrontation with family members. He's now charged with burglary with a domestic violence designation. ABC's chief national correspondent Matt Gutman has the latest.
Tonight, embattled NFL cornerback Richard Sherman released from jail while facing charges of trespassing, DUI, and resisting arrest. The former Super Bowl champ and 5-time Pro Bowler known as a vocal force on the field.
I need officers to my house now. My husband is drunk and belligerent.
What would be a 6.5-hour ordeal began with this frantic 911 call by his wife.
He's trying to leave now in the house. He's being aggressive. He's wrestling with my uncle. He's threatening to kill himself.
Ashley Moss said she was unharmed. Her greater concern.
And he's saying that if the police show up, so please don't shoot is what I'm asking.
Sherman eventually driving away from their home. And in the coming hours, police say he would crash into a construction barrier, then abandon the car and walk to his in-laws' home, allegedly trying to force his way in by ramming the door with his shoulder. Police responding to the scene and trying to apprehend Sherman, but they say he was not cooperative.
He tried to grab a gun from a deputy and was threatening suicide by cop.
Police saying they tried to use de-escalation tactics.
At the point in time that the officers made physical contact with him, he resisted. An altercation occurred, and then subsequently a canine was deployed to assist in gaining compliance and taking him into custody.
Matt Gutman joins us now. And Matt, it seems like those police de-escalation tactics work pretty well in this instance.
They did. These are the kinds of incidents that could end with someone being shot or hurt, but police were obviously very aware of what they were trying to do, spending a long time trying to talk Sherman down, and it was only once he seemed to run away and allegedly resist arrest that they allowed that canine dog to try to take him down. But it could have ended very, very differently, Lindsay.
Of course. And so what comes next in this case?
Well, the judge has released Sherman on his own recognizance, provided that he have no contact with his father-in-law, who was apparently so frightened during that altercation when Sherman was trying to shoulder down the door that he had a handgun at the ready and used bear mace on Sherman. But, you know, the judge noted that Sherman has no prior criminal record. He is a pillar of the community and a good father and husband, at least until this incident happened. So he's going to release him. And right now he's off on bail, and we'll see where these charges go. Lindsay?
We will see indeed. Matt Gutman, our thanks to you. When we come back, the terrifying near abduction caught on tape and what one older brother did to stop it. The Olympic nightmare. More athletes in the COVID crosshairs, including the U.S. men's basketball player who now will not be able to play in the games. Meanwhile, cases surge in Tokyo. But up next, remember the viral video released by the company Neuralink? Monkeys playing ping pong with their minds? Our in-depth look at the revolutionary advances in brain science technology and the concerns that are growing louder.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any place else. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir. America's #1 most watched newscast, now streaming on ABC News Live.
There once was a housewife, Erica Jean, the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, who married a hustler.
Tom Girardi was LA Law, so powerful.
They were just blowing money left and right. But then,
the Real Housewives star accused with her husband of staging a fake divorce.
Thomas Girardi accused of embezzlement. People love a good scandal.
The biggest question is, did she know?
The Housewife and the Hustler, only on Hulu.
Right now, with so much at stake, Sunday mornings, this is the place. Taking on all the tough questions. Straightforward reporting. No spin, no hype, no bull. Thank you for making ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos the #1 Sunday morning news show versus the competition.
Welcome to This Week.
The world may feel out of your control, but your happiness doesn't have to be. Learn the secrets to happiness. Listen to the 10% Happier podcast, free on Apple Podcasts.
GMA tomorrow. Not 1, not 2, but 3 music stars ignite your morning and give you a first sneak peek at their epic summer tour. Green Day's Billy Joe Armstrong, Fall Out Boy's Pete Wentz, and Weezer's Rivers Cuomo on GMA's Summer Concert Series, sponsored by Caesars Rewards.
I just have chills. I will never get that picture out of my head.
A pregnant 42-year-old woman gunned down.
She is the girlfriend of a former Chicago Bear.
An 85 Super Bowl Bear.
Sean Gale.
This was an execution.
This is Sean Gale. She's dead.
When you hit the gun, did you hide it real well?
Now, the Jailhouse Interview. 2020, Friday at 9/8 Central on ABC. This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're going to move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people
squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
This is really fascinating stuff. What you're looking at right now is a paralyzed man using his mind in order to create the words that appear on the screen. This revolutionary speech neuroprosthesis research at the University of California, San Francisco is allowing the gentleman to communicate in complete sentences by translating signals from his brain to the vocal tract and directly onto text on the screen. It's one of several massive leaps in brain science technology that is literally creating a future of potentially infinite possibilities and also concerns about how this technology could be used or misused. Our Kaylee Hartung files this in-depth report on one of the leading creators in this field who at one point became so concerned with its power, he gave up his patent to a university.
It was the viral video moment seen around the world. In April, a monkey playing a game of Pong using only its mind with the help of what's called a Neuralink. The device is Elon Musk's latest venture into a fast-evolving tech space. Tiny chips that get implanted in the brain. Sounds like something out of The Matrix, but this is not a movie.
Welcome to the real world.
Brain chips are part of a revolutionary field that's been around longer than you think.
Is this science fiction?
Or is this reality?
It is absolutely science fiction that has turned into real science. What Elon Musk did with these monkey trials showing how monkeys with brain chips could control computers with nothing but their minds, the first version of this happened in the 60s.
Jeff Steibel is an entrepreneur, investor, and brain scientist. He's the former owner of BrainGate, a pioneering brain chip company.
Explain in the simplest terms to me what that technology is.
When you think of these brain chips, it's actually pretty simple. All we're doing is tapping into that electrical current, reading the language of the mind, sending it to a computer, and the computer interprets that language, converts it, and you can do all kinds of things with it. Really that simple.
The chip, more formally known as Brain-Computer Interface, or BCI, is the size of a baby aspirin, connected to a larger device called a pedestal that gets surgically attached to the motor cortex. The goal is to profoundly improve the lives of people suffering from paralysis, brain injuries, or other spinal cord injuries by turning their thoughts into actions. The first FDA-approved clinical trial of BrainGate's neural interface system was launched back in 2004.
Imagine if you were an individual who could never speak to someone, and for the first time you could type "I love you" to one of your loved ones. Imagine if you couldn't walk, but you could all of a sudden use a wheelchair with nothing but your mind. Imagine if you couldn't use your arms, but for the first time, using your mind, you could control a prosthetic to then eat something. Again, for the first time, it's those aha moments that surprise even me to this day.
Experts believe BCI also has the potential to transform the way humans and computers work alongside each other forever.
Companies will have access to brain data, and this is going to fuel a very lucrative new data market. Moreover, companies will be able to sell another type of device on top of smartphones, laptops, and so on.
Several companies have already moved forward with less invasive wearable versions of BCI technology, aimed at everything from improving focus to controlling prosthetic limbs, even controlling gadgets with the mind. In April, the FDA gave its first ever market authorization for wearable BCI, approving a device that helps stroke patients regain mobility in their arms. French company NextMind marketing a wearable headband, allowing this man to change the channel through sheer will alone. It currently retails for $399. Experts predict that BCI has the potential to be a $3.85 billion industry by 2027, according to Allied Market Research. But with great promise comes great concerns.
You're going to have to share your brain data with private companies. Are you willing to share your brain data only to have a better interaction with your nearby devices? This is the question.
What are the other ways it could be used that causes pause?
The peril of this technology, the risk of this technology is if we push too hard, too fast, you can use it for virtually anything. When we go beyond trying to help people who are struggling, paraplegics, quadriplegics, locked-in patients, people who can't speak, to improving people who are normally functioning, giving you a brain chip as an example, it's almost downright frightening.
In 2020, Steibel decided to donate BrainGate to Tufts University to determine how best it should be used. The university says it's in the early stages of evaluating the technology.
Explain to me the thought process in your mind for handing this over.
We always knew that this served a greater humanitarian purpose. We always said that we wanted to do the right thing here. Despite the fact that I have a background in the brain, I knew just enough to know that it was dangerous to know just enough. We needed smarter minds to be focused on this.
Daniel Dennett, one of Steibel's mentors, is an esteemed bioethicist. The newly established Tufts Consortium on Brain and Cognitive Science is partially named after him.
What we're learning is that almost any technology that utilizes remote devices like Bluetooth or Wi-Fi is hackable. And certainly if you're going to have something in your brain that is going to control a limb, whether it's your limb or a limb on a drone robot of sorts, if that's hackable, you want to guard against that, and that's going to be a big issue.
Aside from those risks, Steibel says there will always be great concerns when potentially world-changing inventions enter the fold.
Anytime a new technology comes out, whether it's TV, the printing press, the wheel, Facebook, the internet, there are always perils. Usually, when done right, there's far more good than there is bad.
Many experts believe government will need to play a key role in the future of BCI.
A lot of people are in favor of this. They think that the only way to push the humankind forward is to merge with machines. Is it something scary? Yes. Are we going to need specific regulations? Yes. Are we going to have companies trying to do things that might be illegal? Probably. That's why we need strong regulations.
I'm always cautious about, about attacking technology, but any new technology has perils and pitfalls. What you need are benevolent thinkers trying to determine how best to use it.
You believe this technology can do more good?
I know this technology will do more good. I'm not just an optimist. The glass isn't half full. The glass is full. It's got part water, part oxygen. We can use both of those things to do great things. When it comes to BrainGate and these brain chips, this is going to be so good for so many people.
Kaylee Hartung, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Our thanks to Kaylee for that. And still ahead here on Prime, the major Johnson & Johnson recall for sunscreen, why they pulled 5 products off the shelves on the heels of those English soccer stars having racist taunts hurled at them, how world soccer organizations are also trying to stop rampant anti-gay chants in stadiums, and the newest national park. We'll tell you all about it in By the Numbers. But first, our tweet of the day tonight.
I've been dreaming about this all my life. Now I'll become the youngest astronaut ever because I'm 18 years old.
This 18-year-old may soon become the youngest person to ever go to space, and he's going with Jeff Bezos.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you? Yeah.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 12 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move back. Let's move back. We're surrounded by people
squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
When I started my journey, I wanted to teach people there is no such thing as a bad dog.
From the leader of the pack.
She won't listen to me.
Today's a new day. Claim your space.
Comes a serene new series.
She has forgotten how to be a dog. No more excuses. It's now or never.
Discover tranquility through training.
I need you to be calm and confident.
It's amazing.
You did good.
Cesar Millan, Better Human, Better Dog. New series Friday, July 30th at 9 on National Geographic.
Just have chills. I will never get that picture out of my head.
A pregnant 42-year-old woman gunned down.
She is the girlfriend of a former Chicago Bear.
An 85 Super Bowl Bear.
Sean Gale.
This was an execution.
This is Sean Gale. She's dead.
When you hid the gun, did you hide it real well?
Now, the Jailhouse Interview. 2020, Friday at 9/8 Central on ABC.
The world may feel out of your control, but your happiness doesn't have to be. Learn the secrets to happiness. Listen to the 10% Happier podcast, free on Apple Podcasts.
Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, Michael Strahan. Wake up with America's #1 most watched morning show. ABC's
Good Morning America.
ABC News honored winner for the second straight year with the Edward R. Murrow Award for Overall Excellence in Television. ABC News, America's #1 news source.
Welcome back, everyone. Now to America's newest national park, the new River Gorge in West Virginia. It got the designation in the December COVID relief bill and comes as visits to national parks are hitting record-setting highs. We take a look by the numbers. The new River Gorge is now the country's 63rd national park. About 53 miles of the new river, one of the oldest in the world, flows through the park. You see here the new River Gorge Bridge, which is one of West Virginia's most recognized landmarks, surrounded by more than 70,000 acres of scaling rock and lush trees. It's no surprise that the park is a haven for mountain bikers, hikers, rock climbers, and whitewater rafters. But it was also popular with hunters who are now prohibited from hunting there. Across the country, about 8 million more Americans went hiking in 2020. That's compared to 2019, a trend that's continued into 2021 with visits to national parks reaching record numbers, according to the Outdoor Foundation. Yellowstone National Park, for example, hosted nearly 500,000 visitors in May. That was an 11% increase from May of 2019, a year that was previously the busiest on record. And we still have lots to get to here on Prime tonight. The grisly discovery, 2 found dead in the Versace mansion in Miami, a day before the anniversary of the fashion icon's death. And the people who fell in love with someone incarcerated when they could have tried to find someone not behind bars. But first, a look at our top trending stories on abcnews.com.
World News Now.
And America This Morning.
The best new video.
The breaking news overnight.
Emergency crews called to the town of Surfside.
U.S. airstrikes hitting targets in Iraq and Syria.
The stories people are talking about.
You don't want to shave your legs? Don't. I was going to say.
Oh my. Got it.
And what to expect in the day ahead.
ABC World News Now and America This Morning.
Starting at 2 a.m. Eastern.
Up all night to keep you up to date.
Now, when it matters most, the straightforward facts. ABC News is America's #1 news. Good Morning America, #1 in the morning, 9 years running. World News Tonight with David Muir, #1 in the evening with America's most watched newscast. 2020, the #1 news magazine on Friday nights. The View, the #1 daytime talk show. And ABC News Live, #1 in streaming news. ABC News is America's #1 news. This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're going to move back. Let's move back. We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
Now streaming on ABC News Live 2020. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues, The Hunt. True crime 2020. Now streaming on ABC News Live. Right now, with so much at stake, Sunday mornings, this is the place. Taking on the tough questions with straightforward reporting. Thank you for making ABC's This Week with George the #1 Sunday morning news show versus the competition.
Welcome to This Week.
I just have chills. I will never get that picture out of my head.
A pregnant 42-year-old woman gunned down.
She is the girlfriend of a former Chicago Bear.
An 85 Super Bowl bear.
Sean Gale.
This was an execution.
This is Sean Gale. She's dead?
When you hit the gun, did you hide it real well?
Now, the Jailhouse Interview. 2020, Friday at 9/8 Central on ABC.
Los Angeles County announcing that they are putting a mask mandate back in place. Officials say that because of an increase in COVID cases, everyone in the county must wear masks indoors regardless of their vaccination status. Previously, all this was just a recommendation. Now it's a mandate. It takes effect on Saturday.
This as the Foo Fighters say they have to postpone their July 17th Los Angeles concert due to a confirmed COVID case on their team. Back in June, the band performed at Madison Square Garden in New New York to a fully vaccinated crowd.
Millions of Americans are still not protected against COVID-19, and we are seeing more infections among those who are unvaccinated.
The highly contagious Delta variant responsible for more than half of new cases in the U.S. To help beat vaccine hesitancy, the U.S. Surgeon General announcing a plan to combat health misinformation, which he says is an urgent threat to American lives.
I talk to doctors and nurses across our country who are burning out as they care for more and more patients with COVID-19 who never got vaccinated, all too often because they were misled by misinformation.
Johnson & Johnson is recalling some of its spray sunscreens out of an abundance of caution due to traces of a chemical that can cause cancer found in the products. The company is still investigating how small amounts of benzene ended up in the products, but the recall includes Aveeno Protect Plus, Refresh Spray, and 4 Neutrogena aerosol sprays. Beach Defense, Cool Dry Sport, Ultra Sheer, and Invisible Daily Defense. If you bought one of these, you should stop using them immediately.
The mysterious deaths of 2 men at the former mansion of fashion designer Gianni Versace have been ruled suicides. The bodies discovered yesterday inside the posh hotel in Miami Beach. We say a man from New Jersey and another from Pennsylvania killed themselves inside a hotel suite. The hotel used to be Versace's mansion, and his weather designer was shot and killed 24 years ago today.
I'm angry and scared. I don't feel safe in my neighborhood anymore.
This mom in Southwest OKC, too shaken to reveal her identity, says a man tried to lure her kids with a snow cone.
Then the man opens his door and just pulls his hand out. And
she walked us through this surveillance video.
Signals my daughter. Like, my daughter goes, and that's when he says, I have some ice cones, but you have to get them from my back seat.
Her daughter opens the door to get in the back seat to grab the snow cones. Her older brother intervened.
So he rushed to get my daughter out of the car, and then the car just drove off real fast.
Police now investigating this as an attempted abduction.
Make sure you're with them at all times. 1 or 2 minutes is enough for them to be gone forever.
World Soccer Organizations calling for an end to anti-gay chants.
For at least a couple of decades, it's been a stadium staple, a crescendo accented with a shout. Directed by fans of Mexico's teams against opposing goalkeepers during goal kicks. It's in Spanish, but gay rights activist Rafael McDonald says,
because it's a slur, folks know it, and shout it at us just generally.
World Soccer Organizations have threatened to halt gameplay if it's used. Fans at Dallas's Cotton Bowl avoided the chant last night, and Mexico won anyway, defeating Guatemala 3-0.
A Michigan man made a strange discovery when he rehabbed his home. David Olson was digging underneath the cinder block porch at his Norton Shores home when he found a bowling ball. And then he found another one. And then he found another one. And then the next thing he knew, he had about 150 of them.
150?
He thinks there actually could be more than that. They date all the way back to the 1950s.
It became mind-blowing. It kind of felt like a paleontologist or something where you see it, where they got their little brush and they're dusting the bones off.
Well, he thinks the original homeowner who built the house back in 1959 must have gotten a good deal on the scrap bowling balls from the old Brunswick factory and used them under the home instead of sand or cinder blocks.
Welcome back, everyone. In South Africa today, many were left picking up the pieces after what's been days of some of the most violent unrest in that country in decades. For a nation that was supposed to be a blueprint to the world for reconciliation, there is now quite a bit of anger. But unlike the past, it's not rooted in racism, but what some are calling the most obscene inequality on the planet. Ian Pannell reports.
South Africa's in crisis. What you're seeing is the worst unrest to hit the country since the end of apartheid. Thousands of people looting, setting factories and shops ablaze. These are desperate times. One mother, trapped by the flames and smoke, dropping her baby from the second floor to strangers to catch. Miraculously, both survived and were reunited later. Police and armed forces have been deployed, shooting stun guns into the crowds. Over the last few days, the violence has shaken South Africa. More than 100 people dead, among them a 14-year-old boy. The unrest began shortly after former President Jacob Zuma was sentenced to 15 months for contempt of court. He'd failed to attend an inquiry into corruption during his presidency. It's not the only charges he faces. Zuma's on trial for racketeering, 2 counts of corruption and 12 counts of fraud. The 79-year-old denies the allegations, but during his term, he was also accused of using taxpayer money to fund home renovations to the tune of $23 million. He was ordered to pay back some of the costs, but still denied any wrongdoing. His arrest sparked massive protests, also unleashing pent-up anger about poverty, unemployment and corruption. Protesters blocking major roads in South Africa's economic heartland. Moletsi Mbeki is the brother of Thabo Mbeki, the man who succeeded Mandela and a leading political analyst.
So there's been this massive growth in inequality amongst the blacks in South Africa. So what you are seeing happening is being driven in part by the resentment that the leaders who used to mobilize the poor to fight against apartheid and promise them that you will have a better future. The leaders got the better future, but the mass of the people are still where they were in the economic sense.
The situation quickly deteriorating. Many feel it's been a long time coming. South Africa's been marred by economic and political instability. It was the ANC, the African National Congress, that led the struggle for liberation from the tyranny of apartheid. Like Nelson Mandela, Jacob Zuma was a hero of that fight. But today, he and his party are accused of being at the heart of the country's problems, riddled with corruption. In 2019, the World Bank saying South Africa was the most unequal country in the world, where 20% of people control 70% of resources. But Zuma has a loyal group of supporters who say he's advocated for providing opportunities for poor rural residents. His supporters are largely Zulu, South Africa's largest ethnic group, and the riots took place in their backyard.
And see the mess.
This business owner was opened for 12 years. It took just one day to tear it all down.
I'm finished with anger. I'm very disappointed. I had the little bit of hope I had for a black man is finished. It's finished. I'm born here. I'm running the business here. I'm helping the community here. And this is the thank you.
The government now deploying more than 25,000 troops to quell the unrest. But people in South Africa's 2 most populated provinces are already feeling the toll. With the grocery stores ransacked and oil refineries shut down, lines of cars form as people struggle to get enough food and gasoline. South Africa's current president, Cyril Ramaphosa, has been criticised for not doing enough to protect the people, especially the poor.
Our current president used to be a leader of the poorest section of our workers, which were mine workers. Today, the gentleman is a billionaire.
South Africa's unemployment reached new highs only last month. And for a lot of South Africa's youth, the future looks bleak. The fear is that today's calm is only a lull, that without real change, more violence and death might be unavoidable. Ian Pannell for ABC News.
Some grim scenes and circumstances there. Our thanks to Ian Pannell for that. Now to growing concerns over the Tokyo Olympic Games and the ongoing pandemic, with word tonight involving members of the U.S. men's basketball team. At least one will be unable to participate in the Games. James Longman has the latest from Tokyo.
Tonight, Olympic dreams over for at least one U.S. men's basketball player as COVID restrictions ahead of the Games hit home. Washington Wizards' Bradley Beal will not be going to Tokyo.
Bradley Beal
Has been placed under health and safety protocols as the team practices in Las Vegas. Jeremy Grant of the Detroit Pistons also put under protocols. Officials say only as an abundance of caution, and it's not clear if he'll get to participate. Officials aren't saying if they've tested positive for COVID, but the coach today said Beal was devastated by the news, although the team does still plan to compete.
Our goal overall is we're trying to get everybody safely to Tokyo, and at the same time prepare a basketball team to be successful.
As superstar athletes like Simone Biles arrive in Tokyo, COVID measures are hitting teams from around the world. Today, the refugee Olympic team, made up of athletes forced to flee their home countries, was banned from travelling to Tokyo for now after a positive test.
It feels like every detail of these Olympics is going to be affected by COVID, even the medals ceremony. Winning athletes are going to have to put on their own medals. Lindsay?
A lot is different about this Olympics, that's for sure. Thanks to James for that. There are currently 2.3 million incarcerated people in the United States, the highest rate in the world, and many of those prisoners are married. While some of those serving time were already hitched, others have met and married while one of them was in prison. Journalist Elizabeth Greenwood spent 5 years following couples who met during incarceration to understand how these relationships work. She is the author of the new book, Love Lockdown: Dating, Sex, and Marriage in America's Prisons, and she joins us now. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. So let's start with from the outside looking in, the idea of a prison marriage. It might seem unusual, kind of pick your adjective to describe it. How often do these kinds of relationships start?
They start, more often than you would imagine. And they often start because the person on the outside will say, I wasn't really looking for anything. I wasn't actually trying to get involved with someone in prison, but I was volunteering through church ministry. I was teaching a class. I wanted to send a note to an incarcerated person over the holidays as a good deed. And, cut to 6 months, a year, 18 months later, and they're walking down the aisle.
And what do they often get? Let's start, for example, with the person who's on the outside. What do they get? What kind of comfort, consolation from being married to a prisoner?
There's something about the container of prison where so much of the outside world is really shut off in a way that we don't experience in the free world. There's no looking at your phone, while you're at dinner. There's no Netflix and chill. So it creates this very intimate, emotionally vulnerable space. A lot of these relationships take place in the form of letter writing and phone calls. So it's, when you cut out that kind of physical aspect and a lot of the distractions of daily life, there is a very deep connection that people forge in these relationships.
And how about for the prisoner? What are they getting out of this?
Well, I think for many prisoners, the people I interviewed, they said that it was a chance for them to connect with their humanity, to feel, human, and that love and connection, and to experience a kind of softness that by nature of being in prison, you cannot experience.
And you mentioned the word intimacy, and many people, I think about that in physical terms. What kind of privacy do they get as husband and wife during these visits?
Great question. I think that there is a real misconception about the availability of conjugal visits in this country. Conjugal visits is actually a bit of a misnomer. These are really family visits for immediate family, parents, children, sisters, brothers. Those types of semi-private visits exist in only 4 states, and they do not exist in every facility in those states. So the possibility of getting to spend real alone time with your spouse in one of these marriages is very slim. So people come up with incredibly creative ways to create that intimacy. If you are lucky enough to have in-person visits resumed, because of COVID, a lot of them were shut down for the greater portion of a year. Simple gestures like hand holding, that hug. I heard so many prison wives say, I can't wait till my visit this Saturday so I can get my hug. There's also some very, creative, descriptive letter writing that goes on, shall we say, to forge that kind of intimacy as well.
I would imagine that sometimes people could be concerned that this is one-sided, right? That the prisoner really stands to benefit. Did you hear it all from some of the wives that there was that concern, at least going into it?
I think there was, but again, you don't just stumble into a prison relationship. There are so many obstacles and red tape in your way. Even just to go into a visit, there's an incredibly detailed protocol at every visit for what you have to do. So at every turn, you kind of have to decide and be very deliberate. Is this really what I want? Is this fulfilling for me? And when it stops being, a lot of people exit. And when, for most people, it is good enough and is strong enough relationships to stay.
It seems like quite often the inmates are men and the people who marry them on the outside are women. In those scenarios, did you find a common scenario or type of personality in the females who were attracted to marrying a prisoner?
It's a great question. Every time I kind of thought I had an answer to that, I would meet someone who would turn it on its head completely. I do think that one thing I saw time and again was that many people who pursued these kinds of relationships did not have any prior experience in the criminal justice system, had not had an incarcerated parent or loved one. So this world was really new to them in a lot of ways. That wasn't always the case, but I did see that quite often. I do think that many people who enter these kinds of relationships are perhaps are older, have had marriages before. So this is, they've kind of been around the block, and this is something new. It offers them something novel.
And you've said that there's a lot that all of us could learn from these prison marriages. What would those things be?
Certainly. I think the biggest thing I came to learn after observing 5 couples over the course of 5 years and everything they had to go through, holidays that don't look the same, just lots of time apart, is just what a privilege it is to really get to spend quality time with the people we love. I think we all experienced that a little bit going through COVID, and these daily intimacies are just so important and so vital. I think another thing I observed too is this kind of creativity and innovation that prison couples bring to their relationships, whether that's in the form of being on a phone call with their husband in prison and going for a walk and describing everything they see. They just bring a lot of vivacity and novelty and creativity to their relationships, which I found really inspiring.
I can imagine, and that we all don't want to take that for granted as much as we did when we can have that one-on-one in-person contact. Elizabeth, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on the show. Elizabeth Greenwood, author of Love Lockdown, Dating, Sex, and Marriage in America's Prisons, which is out now, available wherever books are sold. And before we go tonight, our image of the day. Here is something that we apparently have in common with bears. During those unbearably hot summer days, one of our favorite treats, a little watermelon. This picture was taken in China, one way to beat the heat all around the world. And that is our show for this hour. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Coming up in the next hour, we're staying on top of several things. The new child tax credit now in effect. It could lift millions out of poverty, but who gets it and how? And if you're trying to get a passport soon for a summer trip, you are not going to like this story. Why it's taking so long to get a passport, and are there any solutions?
Admit it, these days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
I know what happened, and I'm not guilty.
Why the fascination with criminal trials? Figure out what's really out there.
She revealed she had murdered his family.
I know in my heart they did this.
It's the time of suspicion.
The ending's really tough.
You don't know whether truth is going to be difficult to find unless you try to find it.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're going to move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people
squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
Just have chills. I will never get that picture out of my head.
A pregnant 42-year-old woman gunned down.
She is the girlfriend of a former Chicago Bear.
An 85 Super Bowl Bear.
Sean Gale.
This was an execution.
This is Sean Gale. She's dead.
When you hit the gun, did you hide it real well?
Now, the Jailhouse Interview. 2020, Friday at 9/8 Central on ABC.
When I started my journey, I wanted to teach people there is no such thing as a bad dog.
From the leader of the pack.
She won't listen to me.
Today's a new day. Claim your space.
Comes a serene new series.
She has forgotten how to be a dog. No more excuses. It's now or never.
Discover tranquility through training.
I need you to be calm and confident.
It's amazing.
You did good.
Cesar Milan, Better Human, Better Dog. New series Friday, July 30th at 9 on National Geographic.
Hey everyone, I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We're monitoring several developments here at ABC News at this hour. More than 60% of the western United States is facing extreme or exceptional drought, a record since the government began keeping track. In total, more than 75 million Americans are currently being impacted by the high temperatures, and things, unfortunately, are only expected to get worse. I'm not into coups. That was part of former President Trump's reaction amid allegations in a new book that top generals, including General Mark Milley, were concerned that he would try to carry out a coup after losing the election. Trump also said that General Milley would be one of the last people he would want to carry out such a task. A teen is headed to space. 18-year-old physics student Oliver Damon. He is the first paying customer who will fly into space aboard New Shepard, which is part of Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin. Damon will also make history for being the youngest person to travel to the cosmos. Now to the latest on the coronavirus pandemic. The Delta variant causing concern as nearly every state in the U.S. sees a rising number of new COVID-19 cases. Health experts say that most people being affected are unvaccinated, but there are some breakthrough infections with the variant believed to be more transmissible. ABC's Rena Roy has the latest.
Renewed warnings from White House officials saying the coronavirus pandemic is far from over.
But we are not out of the woods yet. Millions of Americans are still not protected against COVID-19, and we are seeing more infections among those who are unvaccinated.
The highly contagious Delta variant responsible for more than half of new cases in the U.S.
Now is our moment to really double down on our vaccination efforts and our other prevention interventions.
But even some who are vaccinated coming down with the virus.
Is that we feel a bit bulletproof. And the reality of it is that my experience has been anything but that.
Chris Leonard of Hawaii says he recently battled a so-called breakthrough infection, but he's still encouraging people to get the shot. Just like Renee Basildoa in California, also fully vaxxed when he got sick.
It's a good thing that I'm vaccinated, because if I wasn't vaccinated, I probably would have been in the hospital. I mean, it could have probably killed me.
In New York City, more than 98% of those that died or had to go to the hospital this year didn't have their shots. In Los Angeles, cases are up 500% over the past month. Officials there say all patients hospitalized at county-run facilities are unvaccinated.
In the past couple of weeks, we've seen a 7-fold increase in the number of patients that are coming to the ER with COVID.
To help beat vaccine hesitancy, the U.S. Surgeon General announcing a plan to combat health misinformation, which he says is an urgent threat to American lives.
I talk to doctors and nurses across our country who are burning out as they care for more and more patients with COVID-19 who never got vaccinated, all too often because they were misled by misinformation.
Our thanks to Rena Roy. Millions of American families have started receiving payments today as part of an expanded child tax credit from the American Rescue Plan passed back in March. President Biden is touting the credit as a historic effort to fight child poverty and gives working families a break. But the administration is still fighting to make the payments permanent. ABC's Elizabeth Schulze has the latest from Washington.
In a significant escalation of federal aid to fight poverty, millions of Americans are now starting to receive expanded child tax credits.
Today, for families all over our country, for children
all over our country. Help is here. The Biden administration is sending out $15 billion to an estimated 60 million children. Qualifying families will receive up to $250 monthly for every child between the ages of 6 and 17, and $300 a month for children under the age of 6.
It's historic, and it's our effort to make another giant step toward ending child poverty in America.
The changes to the child tax credit are part of the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan passed in March. Not a single Republican in Congress voted for the bill. In addition to the payments going out monthly instead of as a lump sum, more families are now eligible to receive the credits. They'll be sent out automatically from the IRS by checks or direct deposit. Individuals earning up to $75,000 and couples making up to $150,000 are eligible for the full credit. Single mother of two Shivani Jones telling ABC News earlier this year the monthly credits will be a lifeline.
That would be a huge help for my household right now.
The expanded payments are temporary, set to expire at the end of the year.
This tax cut for working families is something we should extend, not end next year.
Now, the Treasury Department says these automatic payments will go to 88% of families with children nationwide, but it hasn't laid out a clear plan for how to reach those families whose incomes are so low that they don't usually pay taxes. Lindsay?
Still some welcome news from millions of American parents, our thanks to Elizabeth. Now to a new book reporting the alarming words from the nation's top military official who feared that former President Trump might attempt a coup in order to stay in power after the 2020 election. Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark Milley reportedly comparing Trump's rhetoric on January 6th to Hitler. So how is Trump responding? Here's our chief Washington correspondent, Jonathan Karl.
In the days after the November election, the nation's top military officer feared Donald Trump would try to stage a coup to stay in power. In their new book, I Alone Can Fix It, Washington Post reporters Phil Rucker and Carol Leonnig write that Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark Milley was so concerned he called Trump's former national security advisor, H.R. McMaster, and asked, "What the F am I dealing with?" According to the book, as Milley watched Donald Trump speak on January 6th, he saw echoes of Adolf Hitler.
We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Milley, the author's right, told aides, "This is a Reichstag moment, the gospel of the Fuhrer." That was a reference to the burning down of the German parliament building in 1933 that helped Hitler and the Nazis seize power. General Milley also saw parallels between the Nazis and Trump and his supporters in the immediate aftermath of the election, when Trump refused to acknowledge he lost.
Frankly, we did win this election.
After a November 10th briefing on a planned pro-Trump protest in Washington, the author's right, Milley said he feared an equivalent of brown shirts in the streets. And after the Capitol riot, he vowed to protect Joe Biden's inauguration, saying, quote, "We're going to put a ring of steel around this city, and the Nazis aren't getting in."
Our thanks to Jonathan Karl. So you want to get away? Well, if you don't have a current passport, good luck. The State Department is reporting a backlog of up to 2 million passport applications, resulting in huge delays and putting people's much-awaited international travel plans at risk. ABC's Gio Benitez has that story.
A massive backlog of passport applications, as many as 2 million, keeping Americans hoping to travel grounded.
Our call center is experiencing just unprecedented call volume.
The State Department's 26 passport agencies across the country are overwhelmed.
It's been about 2.5 months now, and the expected time frame for it was supposed to be 4 to 6 weeks.
Connor Jordan is especially desperate. In just over a week, he's scheduled to go on his honeymoon, but needs a new passport. To make matters worse, he can't get a refund on his hotel.
We've been looking forward to this for a very long time, put a lot of money and effort into planning this. There's a very solid chance that we are not going to be able to make it to our honeymoon.
Congressman Mike McCall is one of 2 lawmakers who sent a letter to the State Department this week urging faster processing times.
The State Department needs to go back to work in person
because that's the only way they can process these passports. I do think they have to hire additional staff.
The State Department blaming, in part, the U.S. Postal Service, saying mail delays mean it can take up to 6 weeks to receive an application or send out a new passport.
We are working just as expeditiously as we possibly can, knowing that the traveling public has legitimate interests in travel.
The agency now warning this morning against scammers who purport to sell passport appointments.
We are working to prevent them.
A passport appointment does not require a fee, and the agency does not work with third-party booking sites. You also won't get your passport any faster that way. The State Department says you should apply directly by mail. But just know it can now take as long as 18 weeks to get that passport back. So here's what you should do right now. Just grab your passport, open it up, look at that expiration date. Even if you aren't traveling anytime soon, if that date is getting close, just go ahead and start the process right now, because clearly it's going to take a while. Lindsay?
Some good advice, Gio, to plan ahead. Thank you for that. And still to come, it's not just America grappling with extreme weather. Take a look at these deadly floods. And can you imagine doing tricks like this for a living? Stay with us.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
Now, as the country reopens with so much hope for a brighter summer, it's time to
rise and shine.
And we're celebrating by hitting the road.
Let's do it.
Traveling to all 50 states this summer. Let us shine.
Let us shine.
Yes, it's time to celebrate the summer with It's ABC's Good Morning America's Great Rise and Shine Tour.
Good morning, America.
When I started my journey, I wanted to teach people there is no such thing as a bad dog.
From the leader of the pack.
She won't listen to me.
Today's a new day. Claim your space.
Comes a serene new series.
She has forgotten how to be a dog. No more excuses. It's now or never.
Discover tranquility through training.
I need you to be calm and confident.
It's amazing.
You did good.
Cesar Millan, Better Human, Better Dog. New series Friday, July 30th at 9 on National Geographic.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you?
How cute. Yeah. So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 12 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
I just have chills. I will never get that picture out of my head.
A pregnant 42-year-old woman gunned down.
She is the girlfriend of a former Chicago Bear.
An 85 Super Bowl Bear.
Sean Gale.
This was an execution.
This is Sean Gale. She's dead.
When you hit the gun, did you hide it real well?
Now, the Jailhouse Interview. 2020, Friday at 9/8 Central on ABC.
There once was a housewife.
Erica Jane.
The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Who married a hustler.
Tom Girardi was LA Law. So powerful.
They were just blowing money left and right. But then...
The Real Housewives star accused with her husband of staging a fake divorce.
Thomas Girardi accused of embezzlement. People love a good scandal.
The biggest question is, did she know?
The Housewife and the Hustler. Only on Hulu.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move out. Let's move out.
We're surrounded by people
squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Liftoff.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us. Welcome back, everyone. We are tracking several international headlines at this hour. Weather disaster in the Rhineland. Flash flood striking Germany and parts of Western Europe. More than 60 people are dead, many more injured or unaccounted for. The full scope of the damage is still unclear. Many areas there have been cut off by rainfall, floodwater, and mudslides. Local media reports that it's Germany's worst flood in more than 200 years. New developments in the COVID-19 lab leak theory. The WHO Director General acknowledging today that it was too early to rule out the lab leak theory after WHO preliminary report back in March said that it was extremely unlikely the global pandemic started in a lab. The WHO today also told the Washington Post that they want to fix what they call unintended errors in their joint report with China on the origins of the COVID-19 crisis. A spokesperson telling them that the mistakes were due to editing errors. And some much-needed good news. COVID vaccines, they finally arrived in Haiti. UNICEF donating 500,000 doses. They arrived today in the troubled country. It was the last country in all of the Americas that did not have any vaccines. U.S. and Haitian military forces helped deliver the shipments due to the ongoing violence there. They hope to begin vaccinations on Friday. America's most decorated gymnast Simone Biles has landed in Tokyo to compete in her second Olympic Summer Games. But before she left, ABC's Kaylee Hartung got a chance to speak with the five-time medalist for her final interview prior to takeoff.
Team USA is off to Tokyo. Just before jetting off, four-time Olympic gold medalist and the most dominant gymnast of her time, Simone Biles, sitting down for her last one-on-one interview.
As you go to get on this plane to Tokyo, what's front of mind?
Right now, it's just to get rest and be prepared as much as we can, because once we land there, it'll be out the gates and go.
Biles and her gravity-defying skills feed off energy from a crowd. But COVID restrictions are barring fans from the games, making this the first time ever Biles will compete without her family cheering her on.
My mom is like, please FaceTime me before. It's just like, you know what? Just chillax, like cool, calm, and collected.
You're like, I've got this.
Yes, but I know they'll be there in spirit.
Biles is attempting to become the first woman to win consecutive Olympic titles in more than 50 years. It's a challenge she almost didn't take on.
When the Summer Games were postponed in 2020, did you really think about giving it all up?
Yes, because at the end of the day, it was the uncertainty. It was a whirlwind. And I was like, okay, well, if I take a little bit of time off, I think I can do this, because, you know, mentally and physically, it's just so draining. And
did you feel like anything good came of it?
I did. I feel like I got an extra year with my teammates, and they've really kept me going through this entire year.
Biles, at 24 years old, is the six-woman team's seasoned veteran, the only member who's performed on the Olympic stage before. But she's confident they're ready.
We'll still bring the joy. We'll bring back the medals.
We certainly hope that they bring back that medal. Our thanks to Kaylee for that. Switching gears now, you never see their faces, but you remember them by the work they do on screen. From flipping cars to being on fire, these professionals really do live life on the edge. Of course, I'm talking about stuntmen, the brave men and women who risk their lives every day and do whatever it takes to get that perfect shot. And our next guest is one of the most decorated of them all. Eddie Braun joins us from Los Angeles now to talk about his latest project, Stuntman, which begins streaming on our parent company's streaming service, Disney Plus, on July 23rd. Eddie, so good to have you on the show.
Hi, Lindsay. How are you?
I can't complain. So let's talk about stuntmen. You know, often you guys are the unsung heroes in the movie industry, performing these death-defying stunts that make some people question it entirely. How did you get into the profession? Who was your idol growing up?
Well, as a child, I met Evel Knievel. And at that time, every child wanted to be like Evel Knievel. And that inspired me to, I wanted to be like him. Every kid wanted to be like him. He wore a cape. He was a superhero incarnate.
And for more than 40 years, you've gotten used to doing your work without getting the fame. But now this new documentary turns that really on its head and has you as the star for once. What was that like, being the face of this movie?
I never set out to, I mean, there's a very good reason I'm a stuntman and not an actor. I never set out to be the star or anything. I love what I do, and it's anonymous. It's just a weird feeling being the subject of it. It's a bit strange.
And the movie centers around your pursuit to cross Snake River Canyon in Idaho, something that your idol Evel Knievel attempted to do back in 1974, but failed. Why was this jump so important to you?
Well, as I was preparing to change careers more or less from stunts to producing, I figured what a fitting way. How many people get to fulfill the dreams of their hero? I would venture to guess not many. So I had the opportunity and I took it.
You were so committed to this launch that you personally financed it when sponsors and TV networks backed out. But take us through that moment when you launched into the air. At what point did you realize you had cleared the canyon and made it? Is it before your tires actually touched the ground?
No, everybody asked me what it was like to do it. I say that it was just different levels of terror. There was no point in which I thought it was going to be okay. Even once the parachute opened, I was coming in way too fast, and I was actually scared that the thing would fold in half. It's an open canopy, and I was scared to death it was just going to decapitate me, actually, to tell you the truth. I didn't realize that I'd been fully successful until a few moments after I settled to the ground.
I know that you said that you were inspired by Evel Knievel, but what really drives you? Is it the adrenaline rush? What is it about being a stuntman that got you so compelled?
Well, I'm not this adrenaline junkie or one of those people. I'm just a regular person. I was drawn to the fact that doing stunts is a very unusual job. It's never the same. I mean, one day I'm a race car driver, one day I'm an army man, one day I'm a policeman. It's fun. I mean, when it goes well, it's really, really fun.
And you said when it goes well. Can you share a time that it didn't go so well?
Yeah, I mean, times you get your bells rung or you end up getting stitches or you're going to the emergency room, those aren't fun days.
And those have all happened to you? You've ended up in the ER a few times?
Well, like I like to say that, even Michael Jordan, he misses baskets in the playoffs.
That's true. Good analogy. All right, so you turned 60 years old later on this year. You're still working. You've got 4 children and a wife. Are there plans to retire anytime soon? What's next?
I don't know that you really, quote unquote, retire. You transition. I've transitioned. I've formed a new company with my partners, Stephen Golubiowski and Kurt Matilla. We formed Driven Pictures. And Stuntman is our first film out of the gate. We're going to make really cool bitchin' movies.
Are there any other challenges or obstacles out there that are kind of on your bucket list at this point?
Building a successful production company.
Okay.
I mean, I have a lot to live up to now. Mr. Dwayne Johnson and Ms. Danny Garcia, support us. So, how do you feel when you have the biggest action star in the world, Dwayne Johnson, in your corner? You got to live up to some stuff like that.
Well, congratulations to you. I imagine that you're going to have a few more of those heart-pumping, adrenaline rush-filled days coming up. All the success and good luck to you. Remember, you can watch Eddie's story, Stuntman. It premieres July 23rd on Disney+.
Thank you, Lindsay.
And finally tonight, the extreme drought in California has some residents in the Bay Area resorting to some interesting tactics. A self-prescribed water warlock says that he's found thousands of hidden water sources deep beneath the surface over the years. And tonight he says the business is booming. Reporter Wayne Friedman from our friends at KGO in San Francisco has a story.
Upper Bollinger Canyon, as arid as any place in our region. No sign of water in or out, but that doesn't stop a determined dreamer.
I want to put a house up here.
So Michael Corelli must dig a well to make that happen. But where?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a little while, yeah.
Enter Rob Thompson.
I'm a dowser, a diviner, a witcher. Some people call me warlock.
And during this drought, they're booking him 3 weeks out. Rob's tools, these stainless steel divining rods. He has found 4,000 California water wells in 40 years, since age 10.
It's been passed down from my grandfather to my uncle and now me.
Academics like to say that dowsing or divining is no more effective than random chance, but it's been around since biblical times. Skeptics say, sure, it's easy to find water where there's a lot of rain, but how about now, in a place like this, and a drought like this?
The drought is bad. Does that make business good?
Well, for me, but it's not good. This is the worst.
The process looks simple, but it quickly becomes mystical.
You have to get into a deep meditative state.
Those rods? Rob says they move on their own. No batteries, no technology.
It feels kind of like you're a large magnet.
His body appears to amplify whatever's going on far below, and then the divining rods cross.
Sweet spot's right here.
Rob says he found a vein 6 feet wide, not far from another well he identified 7 years ago. But there's more. Rob can tell how deep a drill needs to go, and also how much water that well will yield.
So between 10 and 12 gallons a minute.
So this is just EGB stuff?
No, this is real deal.
Guaranteed?
Guaranteed. Right here.
Okay, so if his track record's a guide, you can believe it.
I've got the gift of the third eye.
And the best of jobs and the worst of droughts.
But did he find the water? I was waiting to find out. Our thanks to Wayne for that. And that is our show for tonight. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Have a great night.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
seems to change.